Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, a podcast about leaving self-doubt in the dust, punching fear in the face, and taking bold action toward your biggest dreams. I'm Angie Coley, and let's get to it. Welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass. And today I have got my friend Brian McCarthy with me, my friend and my life coach, incidentally, which I think we'll go into a little bit more later. But Welcome, Brian. Tell everybody a little bit about you.
Oh, goodness. Hi, I'm Brian McCarthy. I'm a copywriter and also, I don't want to say life coach. I'm thinking mindset coach. I don't know. Working on it, work in progress. But spent about 6 years as a copywriter. Then realized, hey, marketing is cool, but I don't want to do that anymore, maybe. So started doing this life coaching thing and was like, holy crap, this is super awesome. So that's I'm doing a bit of both. And yeah.
And I am totally biased, but you're really freaking good at it. So, hey, the mindset thing for sure. Brian, ladies and gents, everybody that is listening, ladies, gents, and others, was instrumental in helping me get past my own fear blocks about putting out this exact damn podcast. Yeah. So if nothing else, everybody, let's just have a moment of like snaps or claps or celebration for the fact that you're even listening to this podcast, because Brian talked me off a ledge a couple of different times.
hey, you're the one doing it, Angie.
So I love that, because I think so many people get stuck with, if I make this decision now, if I put all this effort in, that I have to stick with this until I die.
Yeah, right? I can't pick a niche or a market or a thing, because then that's me forever. I mean, for me, like the copywriting thing, it was weird I spent, 6 years where my focus is just like, grow this business. How can I double my income? All that, copywriting bullshit. And then I kind of hit this point through various amounts of being coached myself where I was like, I don't like this, just doesn't inspire me anymore. Like just growing my business to say I doubled my income or whatever. Like, I don't care. So it didn't interest me. And then, so I was just kind of cruising along for a while and then started to do the life coaching thing. It was just like, oh, this gets me excited again. Marketing used to get me super excited. And then I was like, after 3 years of just intense marketing and doing all the hand copying and all that stuff, more than that, like 6 years. And then I was just like, okay, I don't care about nerding out to this anymore.
I'm glad you said that, nerding out to that too. Because we've met as copywriters. We both do sales, marketing, writing for a long time. And I had a similar thing recently. And I think that was kind of the impetus behind me starting the podcast. I love ranting about business. I love ranting about mindset challenge. I love coaching people through challenging client communications. I was less passionate about, work on your laptop, living on the beach full time, make 6 figures easily. Like it's not bad. And since you and I both worked with ethical marketers that actually, they weren't lying and selling a crock of shit. It was good work. We changed some lives, and now I want to do something else. And, and here we are doing something else.
And I'm still working with clients and I still love it. And I think part of it is I think everyone gets into copywriting and marketing and stuff with this, like it's a lot about the lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And then you get that and you're like, okay, well, like what else? And then it just becomes more of like, what can like light me up and inspire me and is a contribution? What's actually going to like, help people in a way that inspires me. Enjoy doing every day.
Such a great point, I think, because we can get fixated on a goal, right? I've fallen into this path. I'm starting this business and I'm going to hit this goal. And we never think about, okay, what happens when you hit the goal? Because it's not like I hit the goal and now I'm dead.
You hit the goal and you feel cool for like a week if you're lucky. And then you think of the next goal and how you got to crank out to hit that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you discover that bringing a laptop to the beach sucks. And you're like, well, whatever.
Yeah. Who wants sand in their laptop? I want to be at the beach to be at the beach. This is ridiculous. This isn't Married with Children, guys. Like, you don't get to be Al Bundy forever living the touchdown football, like high school glory days.
Get to be out. Like that's something to aspire to.
I know, but
you don't get that. That's false reality.
That's false reality. The sitcom that's not actually reality. But I mean, so many of us think of goals that way too, that like when I get there, life will be happy. It's then.
Yeah. Guess what? All your demons are still with you. Sorry.
Yeah. You can still be supremely happy doing what you're doing and then be, as Brian talked me off a ledge and just putting the podcast out here, still be freaking out about everything all the time. I think to a certain extent, it's about feeling the fear and then just being able to move past that and do the thing that you're thinking about doing anyway.
Yeah, there's that for sure. And like recognizing the fear is not going away, and also just focusing on like what actually inspires you about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really helped me with that too, because when I kept getting stuck on thinking about how to move forward with moving away from copywriting as my personal business choice, I kept getting stuck in what will they think of me? Yep. People will judge me, and then shutting down completely and not being able to actually do the work anymore. But then something happens, and you helped me recognize this, where I refused to cancel a podcast recording. And I got on the phone with someone. I'm looking at it. Nobody here gets to see the recording, but Brian and I are looking at each other and smiling and secret hand signals. For sure. Let's just say that, secret hand signals.
You're hearing one version of the conversation. There's a whole nother one going on.
And I realized after talking to you and after talking to this person, we did this podcast recording, that I was so fired up and having so much fun just doing the work.
Yeah.
When I could get out of my own way and stop freaking out about how it would be received on the other end, I could just do the work and enjoy it and have a blast.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the general rule these days. Never cancel podcast recordings because they're too much fun. Everything else can wait, not the podcast recordings. But I think, going back to what you were talking about, making a transition, it's kind of funny because I've coached copywriters that came up, behind us. That's a bad word to use, but I think you get what I'm going for. Like they're a few years behind us on the path and they're working towards getting a higher level of experience. And I've had people flat out say, I can't specialize in that thing because Brian owns that. I can't own that thing because Angie does that. And it's always, see, you're making the eyebrows at me. I get those eyebrows.
I own it. I don't recall purchasing it anywhere. There was never a deed signed. I do it. I might look at you funny if you do it too. But like, I do case studies. You're like, I can't do case studies. Brian does them. It's like, well, guess what? There's a lot of people that need case studies that I'm never going to get to. So knock yourself out.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point that you make too, because so many people come into business thinking that the projects are scarce, the money is scarce. There's so much fierce competition for every opportunity out there. And then like, it's competitive. And when I had that super clear moment that I was maxed out at 3 clients and I could not handle more than that, I suddenly realized, 8 billion.
Yeah.
I think the odds work out here in my favor. Just sheer opportunity. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And like, we have such a small, the internet marketing is such a small, real weird world. So if you're like, oh, I can't do this thing because let's go with Chris Orzakowski. Because he's like kind of well known too. Like, I can't do e-commerce marketing because that's what Chris does. It's like the entire world doesn't know Chris. Okay. Yeah. Like, I mean, a lot of people do. He makes some noise, but you're not going to go to knock on every e-commerce store and they're going to be like, oh yes, no, sorry, we will only work with Chris. Like, it's a small world. Yeah.
I work with Chris, and Chris did a branding exercise lately, and we joked, and he's going to kill me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway because, it's like if you had to pick 3 words to describe working with me, we picked swashbuckling, motherfucker, and gabagool. If you ever watched The Sopranos. Which is how apparently Tony Soprano pronounces capicola, gabagool. And it's true to working with Chris, and everybody that does not get down with swashbuckling motherfucker gabagool can find somebody else to work with. And it's great because there are people that will not be any of those 3 things.
I hope Chris isn't listening to this because now he's just going to be extra famous just to spite me, to be like, oh, you think not everyone's going to know who I am?
Hey, it's going to help build his brand. All good.
I'm scared.
Oh, man, that's so fun. And that brings up a good point, too, about being totally authentically yourself in business, not some image of what you think other people want from you.
Yeah.
Because by being that gabagool motherfucker, he's attracting exactly who he wants to work with.
Oh, again, big world, lots of people out there.
Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons that you and I work together, especially so well when you're helping me work through fear blocks, like you and I jumped off a mountain together several years ago.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was a good time.
Talk about feeling better about your life. Like if you go parasailing off a mountain in Colombia where you don't even speak the language and you survive, hey, life is great. This is fantastic. Adventures.
That's a great point too, because it's good to get those reference points of overcoming fear in fun situations. Because then it's like, okay, well, what was it that allowed me to overcome that fear, and how can you translate that to, I don't know, launching a podcast?
Yeah. I'll tell you how I translated it. This has become the laziest podcast launch in history. I do the minimum work to get the word out there, and then I tell my friends, hey, can you please share this? And then I just let go. Oh my gosh. It's been so freeing to take that pressure off. This has to have 1 million downloads in week 1.
Totally. Yeah. Just be like, what's the simplest way I can just get it done, get it out? That's
such a parallel for life and business in general. What's the easiest way to get this done so that I stop resisting it?
Yes. Embrace your laziness, people.
There are people out there like Laura Belgrade that are embracing laziness. I just want to put I'm lazy on all my advertisements and be like, I'm lazy, work with me. Oh, so tell me a little bit more about your transition. I know that you mentioned that you got a little bit, maybe not disenchanted, but you were done with marketing.
Excite me the way that it used to.
Yeah. So you're done with marketing and you decide to move into life coaching. What got you lit up about this? Like how?
I'm not done with marketing. I'm still doing it. And
that's right. You mentioned that several times, but I'm just going to say.
I'm still doing it and I enjoy it. It's just, I just don't have the drive to build it like I used to. And I did just feel an itch to like, all right, if I'm not growing my marketing business, I still want to be growing as a person in some way. And yeah, I mean, I got into the life coaching thing, started just kind of randomly. I just I was working with a client, Rhonda Britton. She'd invited me to her weekend workshop, the Fearless Conversations workshop. And it was really eye-opening of just how cool it was. Cause I realized I don't actually know how to help people because all I know how to do is listen and empathize and give advice. And none of that is actually how to coach someone through a problem. So I was like, holy crap, how do you do this? And then, so I signed up for her coaching thing. So I'm like, I just want to know how to help people without just giving bullshit advice or just being like, you can do it, whisper affirmations. Yay. And once I started doing it was the holy crap, this is so fun. I could do this all the time. It was cool. That was kind of another thing that was just in the back of my head of I don't necessarily feel driven to make a bunch of money and retire at 40. I'd rather that'd be great. Yeah. But I'm also just more interested in what's something that I would enjoy so much I wouldn't even want to retire doing it. And I never felt that. I never necessarily felt like I, quote unquote, found my calling. But, this is for sure the closest that's ever come to feeling like a reality.
Oh, I think that's such a great point, especially when it pertains to growing a business or pivoting and kind of being stuck in a place of fear or anxiety. Finding something, there's that cliche that people throw around, find something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna barf at this.
Get out of here.
Hallmark bullshit. But thinking about I love doing this work so much, I don't even know if I care about retiring. I'm having so much fun. That is a context that I really understand in terms of doing the work that you love and just showing up every day instead of working for a paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when people say that, you do something you love and how you'll never work a day in your life. It's like my dad's a doctor. He loves being a doctor. He has to wake up at 4 a.m. because he gets on call. He doesn't like that. There's always parts of the job you don't like. I don't care. All these gurus are waking up going, oh God, I don't want to do this thing actually today, but let's go. Okay. Like, what are you talking about?
That's so true. And I think that's why that old adage kind of falls apart and is a lot bullshit, because you'll never work a day in your life just implies that there's that magical finish line that you cross it into happy land and there's never any struggle again.
Yeah. This magical world where you no longer have problems. Get the fuck out of here.
Welcome to reality, my friend.
And yeah, like that just gives people a false expectation, and then they beat themselves up for not ever hitting it. And it's like, it was never real to begin with. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Like, stop living in fantasy. Come live with us in the real world. I apply that marketing principle that we know so well, 80-20, to life and work in general. Like, if I'm happy 80% of the time, this is a good life. I can deal with that 20% if I'm happy 80%. But yeah, like, I mean, I love this podcast. I will not cancel a single recording of this if I can help it. Do I like writing all of the emails and putting it out and doing all the promotion work? Not really.
Probably go get a beignet at a cafe.
Yeah. Covering myself with powdered sugar.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good, like, you know, kind of North Star to lead you. But yeah, it's, you know, that magical fairyland of everything's sunshine and rainbows.
But I want to live in Rainbow Land, Brian.
I don't know, man. There's more evolved people than me that are there, but I just haven't seen it through my travels.
Me either. And I've had some pretty fun adventures to this point, but I said, like, even living on the road comes with its pitfalls. You know, I'm traveling from Airbnb to Airbnb, and a lot of people are like, man, that sounds like fun. I'm going to do that. I'm like, okay, well, packing up all my shit in my car is not particularly fun. Dealing with a yowling cat for 6 hours on the road, also not very fun. Being able to go on adventures, super awesome. Being able to sleep in a little bit late, because that's how I've built my business, also very awesome. So there's trade-offs for every decision that you make.
For sure.
It's fantastic. So tell me a little bit. I'm just going to throw this at you. We're going to go a little bit off the cuff, put you on the spot.
I like it.
So you said that you're still working with marketing clients.
Yeah.
And you're taking on life coaching clients as well.
Yeah.
What about the life coaching has you jazzed up? Because you mentioned being able to coach somebody through that, but I kind of heard this little bit of a spark that I want to dig into there.
Are you cool talking about what we talked about on our last session?
Absolutely.
We're
going to get raw.
So it was like you being like, hey, I realized I used to think I was a strategic person with a creative side, and I realized I'm a creative person with a strategic side. Like, that's like, you just changed your view of who you are, and you identified all this kind of stuff you've been suppressing of, like, I like to write, I like to, or, do, like, I want to do sculptures, like sell things online, all this stuff, and like sell art online. And it's like, and how much joy that brings you and how that's been suppressed. And it's like, that is unlocked. Like, that's a transformative thing to discover. That was like our 5th session together. Are you kidding?
Anytime on our coaching calls, I get a Brian giggle, or you're like, yes, Angie, yes. I'm like, I'm winning. This is it.
And that's just like, one of the concepts that we cover. And it's like, so just being able to help people have these transformations. And because I've done so much getting coaching, I've had these amazing transformations. Like, when I talk about, therapy helping me realize I was chasing this bullshit goal of building this revenue that I actually didn't really care about. And I was just being like, well, he's making all this money, so that means I need to, because he's younger and better looking than me. So I get to do that. Otherwise I suck. And just realizing, wait, no, this is bullshit. Now that that's gone, what's there? What do I actually care about? What actually excites me? And like, so, helping people have like discoveries and transformative experiences, not like the one I had, like their own version of the one I had. And then also giving them the skills and tools of like, okay, now that you've had this amazing insight, what are you going to do about it? How are we going to actually, move forward with it, instead of, you can have a friggin' breakthrough and then your life doesn't change and you go, what the hell? And I've had plenty of those too. And that's like basically I've seen, to answer your question, I've seen the changes in myself, and I'm just excited to help others have, some kind of version of that.
And that's awesome. Like, I want to kind of circle that one a little bit and explore it a little bit, because I know that in some instances online, when it comes to self-improvement, there's always kind of a moving goalpost of like, I'm not ready to start until. And I think, maybe if you're a person out there that's hearing this and thinking like, okay, I'm not ready to start a business. I'm not ready to grow a business. I'm not ready to change in my business until I get a coach like Brian. I'm not necessarily saying go out and hire Brian, mostly because I want him to be my coach. So you can't have him. Haha. Well, he'll probably let you have him, but I will fight you. If you are somebody that's already self-improvement minded, then it might be as simple as surrounding yourself with other entrepreneurs who've been through similar struggles and can help coach you through. And
Definitely
then maybe having a coach is somebody that can help you break through to the next level. So I'm not necessarily advocating that you have to spend a whole bunch of money just to get started and get your head on straight. Getting your head on straight is definitely a priority you are going to need to address at some point.
You're going to need to do it at some point. You
Yes.
either do it at the beginning and it helps change the whole trajectory of your business and what you bring and how you show up to your business.
Yes.
Or you wait until you're super successful and then you go, wait, I'm super successful. I hit all my goals and I'm still not happy. And then you end up in therapy or getting a coach or whatever. So it's like, sorry, we all need it. It's only a matter of time.
We do. And it's my therapist. We're just going to talk about our therapist today. She brings up this excellent concept of narrative, especially in terms of how we hear stories from around us and we internalize this shit without even realizing it. Like I had that starving artist narrative in my head big time when I became a writer. Like, you can't be a writer. You can't pay the bills that way. Hint, I made more money than most of my family ever did as a writer. Yeah. I just found the place that I was really good where the intersection with the money actually worked out. Like, but I mean, that was almost as much of a fluke as anything in my life. I fell into copywriting by pure accident after getting laid off.
Found the kind of art that pays. Yeah, no, I had the same thing. I read that friggin' book, The War of Art, and I'm like, yeah, art's a struggle, writing's a struggle. And like, it got in my head that this needs to be hard. And yeah, then I learned that resistance is coming from other places and there's a way around it.
I feel like that's a recurring theme today, because the person that I spoke to earlier on a podcast, we talked about resistance that you meet from external like when you're trying to do something, this is the goal I'm trying to hit, and you met obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and you're getting super frustrated. Maybe that's a sign from the universe. And I'm not a very woo person, but maybe that's a sign that you're not supposed to do that thing right now. Look at how much it's pissing you off, how much it's a struggle. Maybe there is an easier path if you let it be a little bit easier, instead of assuming that it has to be hard and that if you're not struggling, you won't find success. I mean, there's going to be some struggle eventually, but you literally don't have to get up every day and struggle like 80% and meet your threshold of struggling before you get to success.
Yeah. And it's like, there's a good kind of struggle and the not good kind. There's the kind that leaves you depleted. And there's the kind that, like I do jujitsu and I work really hard and get my ass kicked and I feel awesome after. And it's like, that's a struggle. And then there's also the struggles that were other workouts where I'm just like, this is miserable and not fun. And I'm just tired and grumpy. It's like, there are struggles that like, struggle doesn't necessarily have to be a depleting, a disempowering thing. It can be something that's, it's overcoming a challenge. It can be fun. And so it's part of A, your mindset around it, and B, finding those struggles that kind of light you up.
I love that. I'm glad that you made that point, because it's almost like, if you wanted to lift weights to get stronger, right, you got to tear a little bit of muscle first to build it back up. But if you're really jazzed up by feeling super strong, then that little bit of pain to lift a little bit more weight is worth it.
Yeah. It feels like progress as opposed to this just feels like pain. And
yes. This sucks. Do another rep. This sucks. Do another rep. Like if you're hating everything about it, then maybe find something else that you enjoy.
Yeah. Maybe there's a path that makes more sense for you and you're just doing this one because that's what everyone else is doing and you're trying to keep up or because you're trying to please your parents or a whole bunch of things.
Oh yeah. We're going to unpack it. We're going to unpack it all. The secret to life.
I'm sorry. I've had so much like friggin' getting coached in therapy and stuff, and I don't have any outlet to talk about it that much. So I think this is part of it. I'm just like, this is the thing I like to nerd out to now, not fucking headlines.
I know. And then See, when I had we have a friend, mutual friend, Carolyn Ananian. When I had her on the show, she made this crack, but it totally makes sense. She goes, I would ask you, do you really want to start a business or do you just need therapy? ¿Por qué no los dos? Like, why not both?
Do you need to start a business or do you need therapy?
That totally went into the trailer when I heard that crack. I was like, nope, that's great. But I mean, sometimes people use this business thing as an escape mechanism from like, I don't know, I'm not meant to be in the job.
Oh, yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're meant to be in business for yourself either. Like you could learn the skills to be a good employee. Man, I had a moment where I wanted to punch John Carlton in the face. And I'm going to totally send this episode to him so he can listen to it too. I was at a mastermind and this is right before I left the day job and I was stressing, and you've heard me stress before. I can get real deep on that anxiety spiral, like freaking out about stuff that hasn't even happened yet. I will invent scenarios to stress out about. And that's why I'm passionate about getting help with this shit. But anyway, so I'm like circling the drain about I'm getting ready to leave this day job, but I'm feeling overwhelmed and I don't have time to work on my business. And he said something to me. He gave me a couple solutions, including modifying my working schedule, dedicating time, blocking some time outside of my schedule to work on client projects. And he finally looked at me after I kept circling the drain a couple times. And he said, some people are just better employees and they're not meant to be in business. And my instant internal reaction was, fuck you, Carlton. Like somebody telling me that I might be better off as an employee was like the final, nope, I can do this. I'm going to prove you wrong. And I saw him the next year at a conference and he was going back into the ballroom. I was sitting outside the ballroom and I said, hey, Carlton. He's like, hey, Angie. And I was like, so I quit my job. And he goes, what are you working at these days? And I told him, I'm working with Jeff Walker. And he goes, oh, tell that fucker to call me. And that was like the end of that conversation. So like this guy changed my life by making me want to punch him in the face, but ultimately making me stand up and own the fact that, yes, I did want a business. I did not want to be an employee. Yeah. I'm going to go do this thing and take a risk and bet on myself and also suppress my urge to punch you in the face.
It's nice that statement got you so much clarity.
It did. There's another exercise that I put some of my coaching students through that they make fun of me for until they do it. And it's flipping a coin. Especially when it comes to like picking something that they want to specialize in, right? Most of the people that I work with to date are writers and they're trying to pick like, do I want to specialize in case studies? Do I want to specialize in website copy? They're trying to figure out what they want to be known for and they're stressing out about it. And I was like, flip a coin. And they're like, this is serious, Angie. And I'm like, I'm serious too. Why are you telling me to flip a coin? That seems like it's weird. Like, what kind of game are you playing with me? Just assign one to heads, assign one to tails, and flip a coin and tell me what happens. And every single time, as soon as that coin goes in the air, they know how they want it to land.
Yep.
And it's really funny how we can kind of talk ourselves out of those basic realizations. You have that realization of where you want to be already inside you somewhere. And you're just using like logic and anxiety and thoughts to kind of bury it a little bit. And then somebody says something to you, like Carlton said to me, or you flip a coin and realize, oh shit, that's not what I want. Or, oh yeah, that is what I want. Cool. Yeah.
My roommate and I did that the other week when we were trying to figure out which movie to watch on Netflix. And then we flipped a coin. And I was like, nope, we're watching this documentary.
See, and sometimes it doesn't happen in the air. Sometimes it happens when the coin lands. But usually you look at that and go, nope, that's not what I wanted.
Nope, that was supposed to be tails. That was the coin's broken. Yeah.
Coin's broken. That's good. See, I keep with my guests, we're already adding merch to the eventual Permission to Kick Ass podcast store. The coin is broken, I think, is a new shirt. It's going to go along with Dirty Mud Monster and Respect the Eyebrows.
Ooh.
Because the main reason that these videos aren't being released, I'm only releasing the audios, is because if I have a reaction, my eyebrows go like up on my face.
That's the only thing stopping this from being a YouTube show.
Yes. I will distract people with the volume of my eyebrows. Like, it goes the other way too, because if I'm pissed off at something, I'm kind of, I cannot hide the reaction on the face. Now you're making the eyebrows at me. No video for you, listeners. None for you. God. I'm having way too much fun with this. I'm going to take you back 3 years ago as we're recording this to Colombia.
Yeah, hell yeah.
because that was a fun time. And that was a stretch in comfort for me too, because the reason I'm telling this story, we have a friend. We're just going to talk about all of our friends on this episode. And then I'm going to send it to them and be like, we talked about you. You have to listen.
And I'm not telling you when, so you have to listen to the whole thing.
Yep. So we have a friend, Allison Carpio, who has gone on all kinds of international excursions and had adventures. And I met her at that very same mastermind where Carlton told me some people are better employees.
Man.
And Allison was getting ready to go to Spain and was just basically telling her boss, that's how it is. I'm going to be in Spain. If that means we're not working together, cool. Later. But I hope that we do get to work together because I'm going to Spain. And that was a totally different reality from the world that I was living in corporate culture, where you have to ask for permission for everything, hence permission to kick ass. I'm giving you permission. You don't have to ask for it. Just decide what you want to do. So I literally went up to Allison after this meeting and said, how do you do that? I don't even know where to start, like how to pick where you're going and then figure out where you're staying. And like, all of this is just overwhelming, but I want to do that. I want to go places. And then Allison coordinated this trip with a bunch of us that basically had the same reaction. Like, I want to go travel. Where do I even go? And Allison's like, come with me to Colombia. And all of us are like, okay. So, I don't really know where I'm going with that other than, sometimes you just
Colombia. That was awesome.
say yes, get a passport, show up, and then figure out how it goes from there.
Yeah. I mean, it's also one of those things that like it's easy to just kind of think about it and then fantasize and be like, well, no, you can just do it. Like, especially like spend 20 minutes looking into it. Guess what? All it takes is find an apartment, get a plane, go. Mm-hmm. It's not I think a lot of times people have these like, oh yeah, one day. It's like, you could probably do that this weekend. Yeah. What do you mean one day? Mm-hmm. Just throw your damn party. Just take your trip. What?
I know. You called me on that on the podcast. I was like, someday the podcast or my book's going to be Oprah's favorite thing, and then I'll throw a party. And you challenged me to, throw the party anyway. Mm-hmm. So now it's going to be an Oprah's favorite thing themed party. And I fully expect a lot of people to show up dressed as cars. Because you get a car. If you have to explain the joke, it's not funny, Angie. Come on.
Any theme party is a good time.
Mm-hmm. So I thought it was funny in Colombia because, I'm experiencing this a little bit on the road too, where people keep pinging me going like, tell me about your adventures. And I'm like, I'm in my kitchen working on a podcast. I'm not adventuring currently. Yeah. And I know I'm on the road, but that doesn't mean like 100% of the time I'm out there jumping off mountains because I got to pay to jump off a mountain. So I have to go to work to pay for jumping off a mountain. So I think that's kind of what I was hearing a little bit when you were talking about just do a little bit of research and then jump into it, because what you imagine it being and what it actually winds up
like
being.
We build things up in our head that are like a big thing. And it's just like, it's just not like, mm-hmm. I spent 2 years traveling while working, and so many people are just like, how do you do that? It's like, you get a plane ticket, you bring your computer. What? Mm-hmm.
That was the same thing that I'm having here. People are like, when are you going to be in this place? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm going there. Like, where are you going next? That one I do have figured out. I have the very next city further mapped out. And then I don't know where I'm going after that. But that's basically the extent of planning I've done on this adventure. Because I'll do that same thing where I'll just plan and plan and plan and plan and then get overwhelmed by all the options. Yeah. So, no. I love this. Are you staying in Colorado for a while, or are you going to travel too?
I'll stick around in Colorado. The 2 years of traveling like really scratched that itch a lot for me. Yeah. It was like by the end, I'm like, all right, I got it.
Sometimes that's a thing that you got to do, and you figure out if that's a lifestyle that you want to maintain, or if you're cool finding a place that feels like home. Like,
yeah. Like I really started to value routine after. It was like, okay, meeting people and then being friends and then leaving after a month is like getting old. And the whole like, oh, I'm in a new place, got to eat all the food and gain all this weight. Like, we got kind of old too. I was like, yeah. And this just like working out and kind of having routine in my life and having a, community that's not going anywhere. So came back and yeah, I don't know. My weeks are nice. I got a nice little rhythm of stuff. So yeah, I got no plans to leave.
I love that. Like, so this episode is basically turning into work on you, make a plan and do the thing, flip a coin. For now is not forever.
Yeah.
Try it out and see how you like it. I love this. Like, we're talking around in circles, but they're the best, most glorious circles ever.
We can do some more of that now is not forever stuff. Like, I mean, one thing that I remember Kevin Rogers from Copy Chief, that stuck in my head when he was talking about that, is like no one's paying that close of attention. Yeah. If you switch and like, now this is my thing, like not that many people are going to notice. Sorry. They're just not thinking about you all the time. They're not going to be like, what do you mean you've it's like, okay, cool. That's fine.
But the only thing I was ever interested in you for as a human being, I'm going to say that again. The only thing I was ever interested in you for as a human being was that one thing. There was nothing else about you that I actually liked, except case studies, Brian. Except case studies.
You are no longer valuable to me as a person. I'm just disgusted by you, honestly, that you would switch from case studies to anything. Never talk to me again. Mm-hmm.
And especially, it's very important to me that you never change anything, given that I haven't spoken to you in a couple years and was completely oblivious of the fact that you were making a change. I am offended. Fuck you, Brian.
Yeah, that's another fun thing to do with like those fears we have around that stuff is like, play it out. What does that look like? You know, and then like, is that even true? What would you then do next? And then you can be like, oh, I would just realize this person sucks and not talking to them. And it's just like when you kind of think through your fears a bit more, you can be like, oh yeah, this is just a friggin' straw man. There's nothing behind it.
Absolutely. I think it's really important to work it out all the way to the end. I've done that a couple times with indulgent catastrophizing. Literally, it usually winds up with the death of everything and everyone that we know. And then I realize that I'm being ridiculous and I can skip back a little bit and go, okay, so what is the likelihood that I say release a podcast and that we end all life as we know it ends in nuclear winter? Release the apocalypse
podcast, Angie.
Hell yes. The apocalypse. From my podcast. Oh, such power. What will I do with this?
Apocalypse coming to a sound system near you.
Fantastic. Ooh, I mean, things are going to change. Plans are going to change. Life circumstances are going to change in ways that you can't possibly predict or plan for. And you adjust. Like, everything in life is a series of pivots and adjustments. It's going to be the same in business, guys.
No, it's the magical fairyland where everything's good and happy, Angie. That's what this course I bought promised, that everything will be good forever.
I put up my website and I bought my business cards. Welcome to Happy Lands. 80-20, guys, 80-20. That's what we're aiming for. Be happy with what you do most of the time. And then, hey, join all of your entrepreneur buddies in a little bitching circle where we vent about, hey, I'm struggling today. These are the things that are pissing me off. And then go back to work tomorrow. It's fantastic.
Vent about it. Don't complain about it.
Yes. Let it out and then move forward again. Don't get stuck in that circle. Yeah. Yes. You have to say that especially to me because you've heard me spiral before.
Well, it's like, I mean, complaining doesn't actually do it. Like, it just makes you sit in it and just builds the anger and resentment. And like, yeah, venting's good. Sometimes you just need to cycle it out, get it out, and then you can move on from it. And yeah, but when you just find yourself, if you and your friends are just like bitching and complaining about things, it's like,
I love that concept yeah, I know.
Sure.
I love that concept that I learned from you where it was set a timer. And just like tell a person, okay, I'm setting a timer for 15 minutes and I'm just going to get it all out. Like, and then you could just, this is my first, and just like, great. But when the timer goes off, take a deep breath, let it go, get to work. That has been a bit of a game changer for me because I know that I could tap into that frustration and ride that wave all the way across the world. Like, I could get deep into it and ride that righteous anger. But at some point, that's stopping you from doing the work, just indulging in that anger and that frustration. And it keeps you stuck. Like, if you're feeling stuck, look at if you're complaining and feeling like a little bit victimized. It happens to us all, and there's no judgment, but stop it.
That's another thing that I find really interesting is like what drives and motivates people. Cause like, is it coming from a place of like, I want to, like, this lights me up. This is exciting. I just enjoy it. Or is it coming from a place of like, anger and like, I'm going to show this person. Cause I think the anger to show this person, like, it's effective. And I think it from what I've seen, it can lead to being closed off. And then like you put your head down, you grind through, and that leads to what the heck, that leads to burnout. It leads to, I've reached this goal that I don't actually care about. Whereas if you're doing it through a more joyful place that keeps you more open and flexible, and you're able to, see how, maybe this path isn't for me. Maybe I need to make a little pivot or adjustment here versus like, I'm just going to white knuckle it and plow ahead. And yeah. and then it's like, well, now you're just being in that state more and going, and it's bringing you to a place that maybe you would realize you don't want to go if you were able to take a deep breath and think of, what are you actually doing here? What do you actually want?
There's another old saying that I actually love because I think this one's true. It's the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
So like if you've decided that you want to do a successful business, or you've decided that you want to be a happier, less complainy person, and you keep doing the same thing that you have always done. Again, we're not in magical fairyland. I mean, considering how often I go to Disney World, I should have a direct line to some pixie dust, some actual legit pixie dust, but I cannot wave my wands and make the life change for you. You have to get in on this too.
Yeah. And that's also a great point for like when it's time to kind of get help of if you're like, I'm struggling with productivity and I've tried all these different systems and books and stuff. It's like, then it's not a strategy. Like it's not a magical tip. It's like, there's some other kind of, maybe, I don't know if it's fear of success or whatever. Like there's something else like emotional kind of keeping you hung up. That's what I've learned is if you keep bumping into that same wall, there's usually something deeper to be dealt with.
I had such a vivid visual of somebody like opening book after book and expecting like fairyland, and they're like, this one? Nope. This one? Nope.
Go to the children's section. There's a lot of those. Yeah.
If you want happy magical fairylands, go back and be a kid again. And when you find that sauce, tell me so that I can bottle it and sell it to old rich folks. But for the rest of us here in the real world, it starts in between the ears. That's the real magic, in between the ears. Oh, I've had so much fun. Okay, I know I say this every episode, but I'm going to say it again. We have to do this again. That was so much fun. Cool. Brian, please tell everybody a little bit more about where to find you.
You can currently find me at marketingwithbrian.com.
Fantastic.
And
all right.
It's gotten to the point where most of my emails are just about like dealing with life stuff and not marketing. So,
oh yeah. Marketing with Brian as it pertains to your life. All kinds of goodness.
Yeah. I just share a lot of the stuff I've learned from like the, work I've done. And then it's like, and maybe here's a way that can help with marketing sometimes. Like,
We're all
I should make good on that marketing promise.
It's all good, my friend. So thank you so much for being on the show, and we will talk again soon.
Cool. Thank you, Angie.
So that is it. Another awesome episode of Permission to Kick Ass on the books. If you want to know more about the show, if you want to know more about me, Angie Coley, and the mission I'm on to help entrepreneurs punch fear in the face and do big, bold things, then head on over to permissiontokickass.com. That is all one word together, permissiontokickass.com. Make sure to sign up for my email list so that you know whenever there's a hot, fresh, and ready podcast episode out for you. And also on Mondays, I like to send out a little newsletter called Kick Monday's Ass. I'm sure you're totally surprised by that. So thank you for being here with me today. I'm Angie Coley. Make sure that you share this with a friend that needs to hear this message today. Like it, share it, comment wherever you're listening to this today, and let's go kick some ass.